Okay, beautiful. Welcome. How are you all doing?
Right.
Beautiful. Good. I want to start by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we all work and live, each one of us individually, because we're in different areas. And also by acknowledging the teachers that come before us in our yoga lineages and spiritual practices, and the wisdom keepers from our own personal culture and ancestry. Welcome, Nikki. Beautiful. Okay, let's jump in. I'm so happy to see the group chat going off and to see you all counseling each other and supporting each other and having lots of ideas, and it's just wonderful. It's really, really great. I want to jump in today without too much time sort of distraction into this idea of marketing, and specifically around sort of opt-ins and emails. And then if there's some time at the end, we'll open up to questions and answers and sort of general conversation. But there's just a few nuggets that I want to share with you first. Before I forget, my assistant is away for the next 2 weeks, so there might be a bit of a lag on the uploading of the recordings into the page that has all the recordings. So just bear with me. I'm really slow at it, and she's really efficient and quick. So I'll do my best. But if you don't see the recording going up within like 2 hours, which is what she normally does, then that's my bad, but I'll try. The other thing I wanted to say was, with the WhatsApp group, let's keep that going. I think that's really helpful and encouraging and useful for everyone. And I just wanted to get a quick kind of like consensus of opinion around, is it helpful for you to see everyone else's, my responses to everybody else's stuff? Because it doesn't have to be a group, like we can siphon it off. I mean, I'm having some communications with some of you individually anyway, but I feel like the stuff in the group chat is helpful for everybody. But I'm also aware when there's a lot of stuff to read through and we've all got so much, we're all time poor, that I don't want to be loading you up with reading things from other people's questions. So how does everyone feel about that? It's helpful, it's not helpful, it's too much to read through.
I like it.
I think I like it.
Yeah, good. Okay, good. I mean, I guess anyone can leave the group at any point, right? With no hard feelings whatsoever. Like, I wouldn't be offended in any way. I'm a massive unsubscriber and group leaver because I don't want to, I'm very selective about where I put my time. So if anybody does, including people listening to the recording, if it's too many alerts and too much going on, absolutely no hard feelings whatsoever if you just jump out. All right, so with that said, so I set a piece of homework for you last night. I realized I didn't give you that much time to do it. So if you haven't gotten to it yet, there's time. And I really wanted you to think about this, which most of you have done already, in terms of like the bigger context of the whole offering of what your business is and what it does. And then also within that, you might want to look at individual offers. So for example, let's just take Annika as an example. She might look through the lens of Nin Yoga, her yoga studio organization as a whole. And then she might also, which she did, look at teacher training as an individual offering. And likewise, with pretty much all of you, I think. I really love, for this idea of opting in and generating clients and customers, I love the analogy of dating. I think it's such a great analogy. If you think about the concept of online dating, or, just dating, just meeting someone and wanting to date them, I think it's such a great way of thinking about how we set up our businesses, that very, very rarely do two people jump into a long-term committed relationship who haven't yet met or spent any time together or had any communication. And likewise, to ask your customers or your clients to jump into a long-term, deep dive, expensive commitment is, you need to warm them up first. You need to go on a few dates. You need to have them, and both of you, actually, it's a reciprocal relationship, develop trust. And usually what we want to do in the beginning is create a scenario where they can get to know you with the minimum amount of commitment. And I want to say something really important here. I'm noticing more and more the most valuable commodity that people have is not their money, it's their time and their attention. So actually, this is so important, and this is something I've only just figured out recently, and I think this is changed, right? It used to be in the good old days before the internet exploded that when you offered knowledge or content, people wanted that and they loved it and they soaked it up like sponges, and it was really like you were giving them a gift, right? These days, knowledge and content actually is only valuable if they already know you and value what you have to say, because everyone's overloaded. Everyone's overloaded. So what people actually want is hacks and quick and easy wins, and they want face-to-face interaction, and that could be via Zoom, but live interactive experiences. Just knowledge and information now is not enough. In fact, if anything, it can almost be a deterrent if it feels like you're just loading them up with another thing they have to listen to, watch, do, you know, show up for. Likewise, I've really noticed a change in culture with online courses and trainings, that it used to be the more content, the better. Like I used to say, my Ayurveda Goddess program is 80 hours. And that was a selling point because it's like, it's in depth, it's full, like you'll get a lot of value for your money. Now, 3 years in, if I say it's 80 hours, I hesitate because I feel like that actually puts people off. They think, oh God, I haven't got 80 hours to give. So what really appeals to people is solving a problem, which is why I've asked you to think about how you do that, and doing it in the most efficient and let me hold your hand through it type way possible. For example, let me give you a concrete example. For my yoga of birth training, I used to have, I still have it actually, an opt-in. So just to be clear, an opt-in is when someone gives you their email address in exchange for you giving them something, right? They're opting in to be part of your world. I used to have as an opt-in my yoga of birth book as a PDF. I still do that. I still have it. However, most people who opt in to receive a book by PDF will never open it and read it. Like they'll opt in, they love the idea of it, they're on board, they give me their email address, but they don't actually dive into the content because reading a whole book feels overwhelming. When I switch that out and I offer a live 1-hour webinar around having a positive birthing experience, lots of people sign up, lots of people show up, and within an hour, I get the opportunity to have a first date with them. Because it's interactive, it's live, it's time defined, and it's got a call to action, which is you need to show up at 5:30 on Tuesday. And if you want to make that even more, you know, of a call to action, then you can say something like, you know, the recording's available, but only for a limited amount of time. Whereas a book download, again, it's like they'll download it and then they look at it and they think, okay, well, I've got forever to read this. So put it off, put it off, put it off. So when you're thinking about what is it that people are going to opt in for, really think about something that is short and sweet with a big result. Like I used as the example, Tracy doing her fermentation classes. The ideal actually is that she can give people a taster of her kombucha, which obviously in a virtual world is difficult, but her classes are in person. So there might be ways she could do that. Maybe she can go to the local farmers market and give out little tasters of kombucha to people as they're shopping, and then give them a flyer, come and do my fermentation class. Maybe she could give out samples, you know, like in her local area, local health food shop, for example, because she wants to actually capture people from her local area. And then for those of us who are working in the virtual world, how can we give people a little taste, give them a little sample in a way that has a time sensitive, like you need to show up and do this now type of element to it. I do think people in general are loving in person at the moment, like real life post-COVID, but that doesn't mean you can't run a really successful business completely online. I mean, my business is 99% online. and it works just fine. But there is something special about in person at the moment. So if there's ways, like I was talking to Annika today about doing an open day at the studio, for example, if there's ways that you can get people to actually have an interaction, I think that's even more potent. For those of you, Bryony, Nikki, Mihaela, who are thinking about approaching a more corporate audience, which I feel like it's really interesting because corporate's not my gig at all. Like, it's something I've never really done, like I've never attempted to do, and it's not a world I know well. But what I do know is it's where the money is. Like, I know so many people that have built really successful businesses by selling what they do to corporate. Like, for example, I have a good friend who's a coach, like a life coach, and she does a lot of promotion and a lot of she's very active on Instagram, and she has a successful business working one-on-one life coaching. But then every 2 or 3 months she'll sell a package to a corporate organization to go in and do like a mentoring session or public speaking event or something like that, and she'll make triple what she makes in the whole month, you know, working one-on-one with individual clients. So they've just got a much bigger budget to spend. And as Mihaela pointed out today in the chat, they're ticking boxes. Like, they need to be offering well-being, they need to be offering employee support, and these are great ways that they can do it. So I think all three of you, Bryony's obviously got a very clear niche, Nikki's got a very specific thing that she's doing that probably not very many people offer, which I think is very valuable. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, I think I've mentioned her before to you guys, or maybe to some of you, is very senior in HR in Nestle. And she was saying, even for her sales people, like she has staff that go to supermarkets, for example, to talk to the supermarket staff about Nespresso, which is one of Nestle's higher end, you know, products. So she's got these sales reps that literally go into Coles or Woolworths and do presentations to the staff about Nespresso, so that the staff are more able to then on sell, right? I didn't even know that this is how it works, but this is how it works. And she was saying, oh, you know, some of those sales reps are really good and some of them aren't that good. They really lack confidence. They lack, you know, even just basic communication skills. Something like a voice workshop or voice training for those guys would be invaluable. Anyone that works in sales, so powerful. How much can you charge Nestle to train their sales team versus how much can you charge an individual yoga teacher to attend a workshop? Like, stick a couple of zeros on the end. So I'm not saying only do that. I'm just saying really, I mean, the same conversation with Mihaela, right? Like, okay, you can go and sell an individual package to an individual person who is stressed out in a corporate job, or Bryony can sell one program or one PDF or book to an individual spa therapist, or you can sell, you know, add 3 or 4 zeros to the end and sell an overall package that's run from above into that corporate environment. I mean, even for Kay, actually, you know, the work you're doing, so many corporations are looking to tick boxes around the type of work that you're doing. And I'm sure there would be ways that could be, you know, presented in such a way that it appeals to a corporate audience. Diversity, inclusion, cultural awareness, cultural appropriation, like, these are all very important topics within corporations that, you know, it doesn't mean that you don't serve the people you are longing to serve and that you really want to serve. It just means perhaps that you do both and you actually make a good living doing it. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. Either way, whoever our target audience is, and sometimes we're working with a direct to the customer model, and sometimes we've got a couple of layers. So for example, with Bryony, she's going to be selling to whoever makes the decisions, managers, HR, who will then deliver the product to the spa therapists. Same with Mihaela, you know, it's like there's 2 layers. When you're running a yoga studio for Annika, you've got the customer, but you've also got your yoga teachers, and that's like a kind of double layered element as well. either way, you want to be building a database. It's like the foundation of your business. So I just want to give a really clear warning that social media, businesses built on social media, are not secure. So many people get locked out of their Facebook, get locked out of their Instagram. You don't own your contacts in Instagram or Facebook. So if you've built up a big following and a big profile of people, honestly, they can switch it off overnight and you could lose your entire business. And it could be on a blip, an administrative error, you know, and there's not really much recourse. I know people that this has happened to, and it's heartbreaking. So think of social media as a support to your database, which is your main business. Your database, all it is a collection of email addresses. As you get bigger and you grow, you can start tagging those email addresses, like Annika and I have spoken about this, so that you're registering as people come into your system what they're interested in. So like, for example, in my database, I have got a tag for people who've shown interest in business stuff. And then I will email only those people when I've got a business offering. I've got another tag for people who are interested in pregnancy and prenatal stuff. And so if I'm running a yoga of birth thing, I'll only email them. If you're someone who's shown lots of interest in all the things I do, you'll get lots of emails from me, because you're probably tagged, like most of you guys will be tagged in multiple places. And then you'll get really blasted. They're what we call super fans, right? But if you've only shown an interest in a few things, then I'm not going to be emailing you all the time, because I've got the capacity to email you what you're interested in. Like, so for example, let's go back to Tracy. She might collect some email addresses from people who live locally to her who want to attend fermentation workshops. And then she might separately be collecting email addresses of people who live all over the place who are interested in an online kombucha workshop. You don't want to do the same marketing for both of those people, because some of them live around the corner and some of them live in, you know, France. So you've got, if you can get sophisticated enough to have that tagging, and almost every email provider has that capacity now, then that's great. Some of you will want to be tagging who are your corporate, like you'll want a database of corporate customers that you're approaching with a corporate offer, and then another database that's your end user, right? And they should be separate. In the beginning, that said, all emails are good emails. And for a very long time, I had my database just in one big lump, and it worked. When it stops working is when you want to send more emails, and then you start freaking out about, am I sending far too many emails and I'm just blasting people? There are other things you can do to get more sophisticated as well. You can do things like, if you're selling a particular product and you're pushing it for a while, like you're doing what we call a launch, and then someone buys, you can have it automated so that they don't keep getting the emails. You can also do it so that you only keep sending the emails to people who've opened, so you know they're interested. And if they haven't opened, you stop hassling them. But all of these things come later. The first thing is, if we're going to keep it super simple, social media supports email. Email is the gold. Okay, like social media is like when you're online dating, you're just on the apps chatting. The email address is like you've actually exchanged phone numbers, you're going on a date. Okay, it's a big next step. And these days people don't give away their email addresses that easily. Like if they've given you their email, they're definitely interested. And then you can really start to serve them and nurture them. And I'll tell you one thing that's really good, and I'm not just saying this to make you guys feel good about yourselves. I really mean this. The beautiful thing about having a small email list is that you can be very, very high touch in your interactions. You can really nurture people. Like my database now, I've got over 10,000 people on my database. It's really hard for me to have individual interactions with 10,000 people. So you lose a little bit of that personal touch and you start to be a bit more generic. Whereas for you guys, because most of you are quite new and you're just starting to build your list, each person is precious and you can really care for them and really nurture. Like Bryony, I loved it today because she was talking about, you know, she's written this beautiful sales page. around her offering, and I was like, okay, that's amazing. Now I think it would be really important to make a phone call before you send the email. Like, don't just cold send the email because it will get ignored. And she was like, oh yeah, I'm thinking about like going in and visiting them and like taking some samples and having a coffee. And I was like, yes, this is like the highest touch you can possibly be, meaning like you're really engaging, you're giving your full attention. That's what will get you sales. You know, if someone inquires for a photo shoot with Liz and she sends them an automated email that has some pricing in it, maybe she'll get a purchase. She picks up the phone or texts that person, almost guaranteed she'll get a sale. Text is still really good. So what I do with texting is, if someone has really shown interest in something and they're like, I know they're keen to purchase, then if I've got their number, sometimes my system collects numbers and sometimes it doesn't, depending on what form they filled in. But if I've got their number, I might start a text dialogue. I learned that from Elena Brower because she did it to me. She sent me a message via text saying, I can see that you're really interested in mentorship. Do you have any questions? And I was like, oh my God, I got a text from Elena Brower. And then I signed up for mentorship because it just felt very personalized to me. And it was a personal message. It wasn't a generic one. Another one that works really, really well is audio clips. Particularly, you can use Instagram for that, like leaving it, or Facebook Messenger, leaving an audio message. Oh, I see that you inquired. I'm so happy that you're interested. Let me know, do you have any questions? I'd be super happy to make a time to chat. If you don't have time to chat, because remember, everyone's time poor, leave me a message back and I'll get back to you. Another thing along the lines of, don't assume that people have got lots of time to read your stuff and absorb your content, is also don't assume that by you giving your time, you're doing them a favor. Like, as in, let's have a free 15-minute chat, or let's have a free exploratory call. Actually, people might not want that. They might be like, I'm too busy. I never sign up for those. I do not want to have a free 15-minute discovery call because I've got 1,000 children. Every appointment that I do is like hard to schedule. You know, I just want to be able to, voice messages are great for me because I can do it when I've got a moment. Even a phone call is kind of okay, but I don't want to plan it and think, oh God, I've got to remember at 5:30, I've got this 15-minute chat with this person. I'd much rather do a voice like exchange on Instagram or Messenger or WhatsApp where it's on my terms. And a lot of people who are busy, who have like big jobs or lots of commitments, will be the same, or kids. Okay, I'm going to pause and let's see. I've got a couple of other things, but questions. What's coming up? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree. The asynchronous support is a really good thing, and I've been looking at mine because I think for the one-to-one coaching, yeah, the 15-minute call can work, but maybe another option as well of having, a different option. You can message me here and, leave an audio message. I'll get back to you.
Yeah. Leave me a voicemail message, or you initiate the conversation, because a lot of people might be nervous to initiate it. So just show the initiative. Just find them on Insta. I do this. So if I've had someone emailing me and they're going to purchase I've had a goddess, or they're going to purchase something I'm selling, like a, I don't know, retreat or something, I will often go and look at their Instagram, partly to see, are we a good fit? Is this in alignment? Am I feeling it? Especially if it's a bigger ticket offering. And then I'll commonly just go and leave them a voicemail message, and I'll say, hey, it's Katie, I got your email, just wondering, do you have any questions? We'd love to see you in the program, and that is so, it just makes you human. It just makes you human. And it's very, very low commitment. They don't even have to reply. Sometimes people just reply with a little love heart emoji or something like that. And it's like, cool, they got the message, they're happy, everything's good.
Yeah, definitely. And I was thinking about opt-in as well. I was thinking about webinar because that's my comfort zone really in teaching. The only thing is, with my internet at home, I'd much rather be able to do something pre-recorded because it's just a lot more secure, but it's not the same, and it doesn't engage my life skills as well. because I really feed off who's there as to what comes out. So I don't know, maybe I'll think about that. Maybe I just,
webinars work really, really well. Pre-records, it's a bit like the PDF or something. It's people will get to it and they might like it, but there's not an immediate call to action. Thanks, Nikki. Anyone else?
I just wanted to get your opinion on snail mail. So this is something I actually used to do. I used to send everyone a birthday postcard and handwrite a note. And I used to, on Christmas, send everyone a Christmas. It's like, and people loved it, but I got wrist injuries from doing that kind of stuff. Is it worth exploring this again, you think? Is this, and it is expensive too.
Yeah, it's expensive. I love it. I think it's awesome. I've got 2 questions for you. First of all, did you have a direct call to action on the card that was selling something with a time limit?
No, it was just like, I love you, happy birthday, good vibes all.
Yeah, beautiful. So I love you, happy birthday. Here's 50% off XYZ and it expires on Tuesday.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And then also print the thing and have them already pre-printed, and then all you have to write is the address.
Okay. So yeah, I think I like, because I love the idea of receiving something handwritten. So like my love language, words of affirmation, right? So I was like, no, I love this, but it is a bit
too hard. You've got to balance out that, which I agree, it's adorable. But I love the idea of a handmade card. Are you going to make me a card as well?
Well, if you ask really nicely, I will.
I want cookies. Make me cookies and send me those. They've got to be hand iced, and I want each one to be different.
Yeah. Okay.
No. So yeah, it's a great idea. It's a great idea and actually very effective. So with Bhakti Club, when I launched Bhakti Club, I'd done this survey where some of you may have filled it in, where I had, before I launched Bhakti Club, which is like my membership program, I did a survey, which I don't do them very often, but it was really helpful. Actually, I got a lot of good feedback about what people might want or how they use memberships and all that type of stuff. And then I did a prize giveaway. If you complete the survey, you get I think a bundle of books or something like that, something I'm going to post to you. So at the end of the survey, it was like, please put your address here so that you can go in the mix for the prize giveaway. So then I had everyone's address who'd completed the survey, and it was about 80 people. And so I was like, okay, these people are definitely keen on membership because they've taken the time to complete the survey. So then I sent them all a postcard, and the postcard had a discount. And interestingly enough, I had already emailed those people and I'd had a certain number of sales, but when I sent the postcard, the conversion rate was much higher, like well worth the cost of the postage.
Okay.
People love it because they don't do it anymore. It's like, and also for bricks and mortar, like where you are, local flyers, amazing, even through people's doors.
Yeah,
front door letterbox drops, so good. You can go on Vistaprint. Does everyone know Vistaprint? Super cheap printing and also design that you don't need to hire a professional for. Print, X number of thousand flyers and just distribute them around your neighborhood. Because people don't do it anymore. It used to be saturated, but it's actually gone the other way now, where it's really special. Always a discount, or not a discount, an offer, a bonus, or something special with a time sensitive limit. They're the 2 magic ingredients.
Okay. And another question, because in the yoga studio, we text a lot too. Like that's actually the main communication for all students, and everyone on the trial, I follow up with a text as well to see how they're going. And this is all just manually through my phone. This is how everyone's doing it. This is the way. Okay, it's a lot.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I don't text enough to know. There must be an easier way.
Yeah, I think there is, but I don't know if it's like, I guess I should look into it more, but
yeah. Do you have your own personal phone and then a Nin Yoga phone, 2 separate phones?
I did, but recently I got rid of one because 2 phones is 2 times the stress.
Yeah, because you're having to look at them both all the time. So my recommendation would be to have a Nin phone. Yeah, but you want to be looking at it all the time. You need to be responsive. Let me think about it. What I was going to say is you want a Nin phone so that you can delegate sometimes. You can hand someone a phone and say, please respond to these things, and it's not your phone, but you do need, with a text, you do need to be quite responsive. And the trouble with automations is they always feel like automations. You know when it's an automation. It's not the same. Like, I hate those messenger automation things. It's so different. That's why I love voicemail, like voice memos, because, well, first of all, it takes less time because you're not texting. But second of all, you know it's the person. It's so different to the auto texts. I feel like that's a job somehow, Annika, that doesn't need to be on your plate, and it's not the best use of your skills and your time. But I totally get why you're doing it. So I'm not sure what the solution is, but I'm pretty sure if you didn't have to do it, you'd feel a lot more spaciousness in terms of your mental load.
It's always the first job I give away when I end up hiring.
Yeah.
Like when I've had managers, that's the first thing I give them is a phone. Yeah, but I just don't understand how. And plus, like right now, because my business is a little bit sensitive at the moment, I love that I'm able to like directly communicate with everyone. And everyone's like, oh, I'm actually talking to Annika, and they give me like 1,000 questions. So it's good for now, but yeah, definitely in the future.
Maybe just have some boundaries around it and say, you know, have a separate phone, and then say the phone is manned between 9 and 5 Monday to Friday. You know, it's not like on at 3 a.m.
Yeah, maybe you can do an automated text reply, like my auto email reply.
Yeah.
Cool. I'll look into that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, okay. Anyone else? Questions, thoughts, hesitations? Okay. All right. So how are we going to get these magical email addresses? We know that we want emails rather than social media followers. Where do they come from? They come from a golden opt-in. They come from something you're going to give that someone else is going to give their email address up for. And I've already spoken about this a little bit. It really needs to be these days something time sensitive. Goodness. That is not just content. So that's like a golden rule. I really want you to think about, how can I give something that's not just a big lot of stuff they have to consume that they're going to feel like they don't have time for. And the quickest way to come up with something is to think about what's their biggest problem. Like for me, yoga of birth, the biggest problem is women are scared about giving birth. They're frightened. That's the pain point. So if I run a webinar that says, have a beautiful birthing experience, I can give you 5 tips on how to manage pain, you know, feel more confident, even if you're having a cesarean, even if you're having a baby in a hospital. So you talk to the concern they might have. Let's say you're wanting to work one-on-one with someone for yoga, right? What are the concerns that someone might have about doing a one-on-one yoga class? They might feel self-conscious. They might feel like, oh God, it will be just me and the other person. I might feel a bit like I'm being watched, or it's a bit close. So you speak to that. You say, come and work with me in one-on-one yoga. No need to feel self-conscious. I've worked with people of all levels, you know, and then maybe you include a testimonial of somebody who said, that's another great way that you can speak about a pain point, like a concern people might have. I was really worried working on one-on-one might feel awkward, but actually Liz made me feel so at ease, and I didn't feel like I was being watched at all. Or, you know, for Nikki, you might think people might be worried about like, oh, will it be embarrassing doing voice work? Will I have to do weird things that will make me feel uncomfortable? And so you speak to that. You say, you know, you only have to do as much as you want. You can choose to opt out of any exercise. You engage at your own level. And then again, testimonial, someone who says, I felt really shy and awkward. I hated my voice. I didn't even want to do the workshop. And then I got XYZ result. So addressing what the hesitation is, and not assuming, this is another really important one, not assuming just because something's free that people are definitely going to want it. You still need to sell it to them. In fact, if anything, you might need to sell harder on the free thing Because once they get to know you, they'll know that you're good and they'll know that you're genuine. And then actually the momentum has started to build. It's the first date that's really hard, right? Think again, dating analogy, first date, second date, they are awkward. They are hard. You are just getting to know each other. Those first interactions are full of hesitation. And then once you know someone and you've been dating for a while, it becomes fun, right? It becomes nice, hopefully. So how to get over those first few hesitations. I just wrote the sales page last week for the India retreat that I'm running, and it was really interesting. I had so many interesting conversations about this because I wrote, and you can go and have a look at this just to see the marketing technique. I know all the hesitancies people have about India. They're worried about poverty. They're worried about the culture shock. They're worried about, will I get sick? They're worried about COVID. They're worried about seeing animals being mistreated. And I could have just glossed over all of that and done a beautiful, shiny sales page. It was like, come to India. It'll be amazing. You'll see lots of cool temples and we'll go shopping. And then people would have had all those hesitancies in their mind and they would have been unaddressed. And those things niggle, right? They cause people to not say yes. So instead, I wrote this sales page that basically just put people off signing up. Like I showed it to my partner who's like, gosh, like, do you want to not like, don't you want to tell them it's going to be amazing as well? Because I was like, you'll probably see animals being mistreated and you'll see homelessness and it will be really confronting and it's dirty and you can't drink the water. But any doubts you might have had about whether or not going to India is for you, I addressed them. And I said, yes, these are the problems, but here's how we deal with that. These are the solutions. This is my perspective. Drink bottled water, make a donation to a charity, etc., etc. So effective opt-ins address the concern that someone has. Those of you working with corporate, concerns might be, they're all, and this is another thing, we always think the concern is budget. And it normally isn't. It normally isn't budget. It's other things, especially with corporate. Like it might be time. How are we going to manage the time element? It might be logistics. Time is such a big one. It might be fear of embarrassment or self-consciousness. That's a big one. Will I embarrass myself? Will I be pushed out of my comfort zone? Will I feel awkward? And then cost is in there somewhere sometimes, but cost is not the main pain point for most people. Because we've got our own money issues, many of us, not all of us, but many of us, I would say I don't anymore, but I certainly did. We go straight to discounting. Liz, I saw your flyer. It's great, but you don't need to, and I'm saying this as someone who does it all the time. So like, you know, I'm speaking to myself as well, but we don't need to start with a discount. We can start with a bonus. We can start with a add-on. We can start with addressing problems. We can start with something free is better than a discount, because discounting brings the value down, whereas free is like, I'm giving this to you because let's go on a first date. So free, and then I charge. And I've learned that the hard way. You guys know, because you see my marketing, I'm stuck now. I've actually got a problem in my business, like full transparency. I'm being completely laying it out on the line now. I've dug myself into a hole with discounting because I have discounted so regularly that people now expect it and they wait for it. And I do well when I offer discounts. I do get good sales, but I'm in a cycle where I have to discount to maintain the way my business works. New offerings I'm doing now, I don't discount. Bhakti Club, my membership, don't discount. This training, no one here got a discount. I didn't offer them. And honestly, if someone had asked, I wouldn't have given one. Because I've learned, like, there's value in my work. I'm giving a lot. Why would I offer you a discount? Like, it's so in me to go, oh yeah, please sign up. I'll give you $50 off, whatever. Why? The price is the price. The work I do is good. And I'm really saying that from learned experience. The coaches I'm working with now and the people I'm getting advice from now, a lot of the work I'm doing is to get myself out of this discounting loop. And it's exactly how I can't remember who said it I think Annika said it to Liz maybe in the chat. It's very hard to work back from. better. Rachel Rogers' advice: start high, and then you set the bar. Whereas if you start low and think, oh, I'll put my prices up later, you won't. Trust me, it's really hard to do that. I think they're the main points I wanted to cover today. If you don't already have a database, please get one. It doesn't really matter what platform you use, but somewhere start collecting email addresses. If you have an established database, start thinking about how you can tag and segment it to use it more skillfully. Generate some kind of opt-in, so you're starting to collect email addresses, whatever that opt-in is, and that will be appropriate to your particular demographic and how that might work. And then think about who your ideal customer is and what problems you're solving for them. And then what hesitations will they have about receiving what it is that you're offering, and address those hesitations. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say on that. So any questions on that before, because next session on Thursday, I want to talk about goal setting and sort of creating some goals and some bigger picture vision. So in other words, we're going to move on to something different. So now's your chance to ask me about opt-ins, to ask me about database. Mihaela.
So just a thought and comment. So for example, for my yoga agency business model, because my customer is larger corporations and is those people, the decision makers or influencers, or as I said, like people culture, people in team. One of the hesitations and the challenges, number one, is that there's nothing that they've seen done in the past. So like, if I were to offer them a program, they'll be like, okay, show me where it has worked and the benefits that it has produced. Yeah. That's number one. So building that trust.
Yeah.
And then number two, it would be implementation. It would be the change management to implement that for example, for their teams of 30 or 40 to 50 people. Yeah. That takes time, and it takes time. So they want something that's really easy. They would want something to be like, right, we can introduce this to our staff. They can do it, it won't take time out of their lunch hour. Yeah. It also won't take time out of, the 8 hours that we pay for them to be in the office. Mm-hmm. So I think those are like the two challenges, hesitations for me.
So the first one, the first one, until you've got testimonials and until you've got personal evidence, use generic statistics. So you'll say yoga in the workplace has been shown to, find some studies, find some stats, reduce absence by 20%. People who did a yoga class in their lunch break reported feeling 50% less stressed for the rest of the week, whatever. So it's not ideal to use generic statistics, but you can certainly use them until you've got some testimonials and statistics of your own. Second objection is you're in such a good position to talk to this because you speak the language, you understand, let me tell you something. I really want you to hear this. You don't know how much you speak the language. Like when I look at what you write and when I hear what you're saying, I'm like, this woman knows how this all works. Like it's so obvious to me that you have a background in strategy and you know the systems, you know what they're looking for. Okay, so speak to them in their language. Create a very quick document, not quick, but easy to read is what I mean. A very simple document that says, this is what you'll need. This is how I'm going to make it so easy for you. We're going to take all of the complexity out. I know you're concerned about this. I know you're concerned about that. I'm going to solve it with this. I'm going to solve it with that. In their language. You can do that. I can't do that. I don't know what their problems are and I don't know what language they're going to use, but I know you do. So just speak to them in their language and tell them how you're going to solve the problems that they've got. And make it really simple. Make it super simple. Because I do think, I agree with you, for corporate, simplicity is the golden bullet. Yeah, for sure. Does that help? Anyone else? Okay.
tagging, just thinking about tagging, and with Kajabi, looking at yoga, tagging separately yoga, maybe corporate and maybe voice.
Yeah, think about
and then the ones who mix
or everything. So the way tagging works, I think in most systems, definitely in Kajabi, because I use Kajabi, is people can have multiple tags. So I could have someone tagged as being interested in pregnancy yoga, but also interested in Ayurveda. And then every time I send something for pregnancy yoga and I say, yes, I want to send this to the pregnancy yoga people, they'll get it, but they'll also get the Ayurveda. So you can have, one person can have 10 tags. Tagging is so easy in Kajabi. Like you literally just...
I've been doing it. I've got tags on some, but I haven't been doing it consistently and with everyone. And then I've inherited the list, obviously, through from ConvertKit, and then before that MailChimp. So it's sort of...
You can also set up automated tagging. So depending on what they're opting in for, like, for example, if they're opting in for a voice thing, then you automate the voice tag. So when they, attend the voice webinar, for example, they get the voice tag is automatically added. So I would say definitely separating out voice and yoga, and then I would definitely say separating out corporate as well. So like my main tags are, I have yoga teachers as a separate tag, which is about 50% of my audience. I have interested in business stuff, which is a much smaller chunk. Then I have the pregnancy prenatal, I have the Ayurveda, and I have the local to Sydney tag, because a lot of my audience now is international or at least national. They're the main tags I use. A good way to think about tagging is, what do I want to send emails about and who do I want to send them to? Because emails are your dates, right? So it's like, who do I want to date? Like what am I looking for? Am I looking for a man? Am I looking for a woman? Am I looking for someone who lives locally? Am I looking for someone who's, under the age of 30? What is it? And then you can tag according to that. We're going to do another session on email marketing, like specifically email marketing. So this is the foundation session for that, because this is what we're talking about here, is how to get the emails in the first place. And again, I just want to repeat, you can have a very successful business with an email list of 30 people, right? Just because I've got thousands of people, it's all to do with, do they read the email and do they take action on it? I know people who make a lot more money than me who only have an email list of 300 or 400 people, hand on heart. It's just every one of those people is like high touch, high engagement, known to them. I run Facebook ads and I run Google ads, so I get a lot of people coming in from those that I'll never know and I never have a really intimate relationship with. So as soon as you start advertising, it becomes very different in terms of the numbers. It's much more of a churn. But if you're reaching out specifically to people and you're actually building relationships, like, for example, if you're a yoga teacher, at the end of every class, pass a piece of paper around and collect email addresses. That's the beginning. Small list does not mean, you only need a few people to buy that, then it builds.
I'm just wondering how you've managed GDPR, because I get, what I do have had is a lot of corporates and things coming through the contact list, but I've not gathered them on my email list. I still have their emails there, but through a contact, but I've not added them.
How have they come in on the contact list?
They're through my contact page. So I need to add, I just need to add a box.
Go into your emails. I had this conversation with Annika that they've consented. They've given their email address. You can do a double opt-in if you really want to, if you want to be like super vigilant, but I don't. If once someone's contacted you and they've written to you, they've given you their email address, that's a permission. And then if they don't want to, the one thing that's really important is every email you send out has an unsubscribe option.
But isn't it with GDPR, you need to they need to actually opt in for your kind of ongoing communication or newsletter or things like that?
They just need to opt in to be on your list and be communicated with.
But I guess some of these are opting in for questions. Are you available for a group?
You can be more specific. If you want to tag, you can say, are you interested in pregnancy? Are you interested in Ayurveda? Are you interested in voice coaching? But once they've submitted a form to your business that they give their email address, then my understanding is, and certainly this is what I got from Kajabi, from the tutorials I did with Kajabi, they have consented to being on your list. And then you just have to make sure that they can unsubscribe if they want to.
Okay.
I mean, Annika, tell us, my friend, half her database.
Yeah, so I have 2,000 people on my email list, which is pretty good. But Katie asked how many people have actually been through my studio, and I said 4,000. And that's because the MindBody has a little tick box that says, do you want to get our newsletters? And I used to always add them regardless, but my beautiful receptionist, Jackie, was like, they've ticked, they don't want to be added to the newsletter, so I'm not adding them. And I had nothing to say to that. I was like,
hang on, they didn't tick, I don't want to be added. They didn't tick that, because then you can't. They just didn't tick to say, I want to be added.
Yeah,
right? That's an important point of difference. If someone says, don't add me, then you can't. But if they don't actually say, yes, I want your newsletter, but they give you their email, then legally you can. And I do. Email's gold. Like, I'm not going to not send them an email. If they don't want it, they'll unsubscribe or they won't open it.
Yeah. So I'll add those 2,000 people on. Katie told me to tell Jackie that Katie said so. Which I will. Yeah. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you look, some businesses are really like there's increasing interest in consent and what consent means around email marketing. And some people are very vigilant about that, and they really do prioritize consent, and they'll do the double opt-in where you have to get an email and go back and say, yes, I really do want to be on the list and all of that. If you feel strongly about it and ethically for you, that's an important thing to do, go ahead. I'm not, it's between you and your conscience. For me personally, I can say I'll do the bare minimum that is required legally, and then I want your email and I am going to email you, because that's my bread and butter. And even when people say they don't want it, they often do. What they don't want is a cluttered email box, but then they do want to come to India or learn about pregnancy yoga. So, it's like, why would I not email them unless they've actually really don't, and then they unsubscribe, and that's different. And if I have the choice, I don't ask people, do you want to be opted in? I just opt them in. But you can ask. I would definitely recommend that you don't say, do you like not want to receive my emails? Because then you can't add them. Like they've actually like refused. But if I don't get a direct refusal, then I assume consent by the fact that they've submitted a form or an opt-in. And also just so that you know, so does every other big corporation, like Kmart, Coca-Cola, Nike, like all of the big giants. They assume your consent for opting in because you've bought something from them. How many times have you bought something online and then been blasted with emails from that person that you didn't go through a double opt-in process or say, yes, please, I want to receive your newsletter? Any other questions? I used to be, and you guys will have seen this journey with me. I mean, we're getting into email marketing now, which is a bit different, but I used to be so hesitant about how many emails I sent and feel really self-conscious and awkward and worry it's too many, and people are overwhelmed. And now I honestly don't care. Like, I send a lot of emails when I'm in a launch or I'm doing a sales program. I send a lot, and I know like people buy on the 5th email, the 6th email, the 7th email. We're all overwhelmed. It doesn't mean just because they're not buying straight away, because they're not responding straight away, it doesn't mean they don't like you and they don't want your thing. In fact, it's interesting because a few years ago, I'll leave you with this because this again, it's email marketing, but it's really interesting. It used to be, let's say I put a brand new thing on sale, right? Let's say the India retreat's a good example. Oh, India retreat's a bit niche, something more general. Let's say I have like a new Ayurveda workshop, right? That will appeal to a lot of my audience. It used to be that when I put it on sale, I would get a lot of purchasing straight away. And then let's say it was on sale for 3 days, it would taper off till the end, right? So it was like a peak immediately, and then it would kind of continue to get sales, but they'd taper off. Now it's almost always the opposite, where I get not that many sales when I first put it out. And then at the end, when the deadline is looming, they explode. The last 24 hours will be the time that I get all the sales. And what that tells me is it's got nothing to do with my strategy, because my strategy hasn't changed. It's the consumer culture that's changed. We're all stressed, we're all overwhelmed, and we leave everything till the last minute. And if we don't get reminded with the best intention in the world, we'll probably end up not purchasing. How many times have you opened an email, gone to buy something or do something or look at something, and then got distracted and thought, oh, I'll come back to it later, and then you don't because you forget? That's the person that sent you one email because they felt bad to send you 3 emails. But the person that sent you 3 emails got the sale because by email number 3, you were like, oh my God, if I don't sign up for this now, I'm going to miss out. Is that an accurate like description of your consumer behavior? Yeah. So that's what we have to do as people who are doing marketing. We have to overcome the weird, uncomfortable feeling around sending too many emails and just do it. And one of the best ways to feel good about that is to send emails that have genuine content in them as well. So not just I'm selling, but here's something that will be useful and interesting to you, and here's an offer if you want to buy. Like a good example of that is Danica's birthday card. You know, I love you, I'm wishing you happy birthday, and here's a call to action. Even with your corporate, you know, those of you who are approaching corporate, I think the call to action, the deadline actually will be very useful, because same in corporate, they're busy and overwhelmed and like, oh, I'll get onto that when I've got less things in my inbox. But actually, if you say, okay, well, I think with corporate, what might work quite well is a scarcity element. Like I've got 3 spots, and when they're full, they're full. That's another one that can work really well. Like there's a deadline option, but there's also a like with India retreat, we've only got 12 spots. It's already half full. So, you know, that's like, it's going to fill up. So it might be like if, you know, for Mihaela, maybe she's got like 3 corporate yoga teachers that work in her agency, and when their schedule's full, it's full. So it's like first in, those slots are going to go kind of thing. All righty. Was that helpful? Food for thought? Okay, good. Don't overthink it. As with everything, just get a database happening. It doesn't really matter what platform you're using. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. Some kind of opt-in, even if it's just you're collecting email addresses on a piece of paper. You don't have to create some big swanky.
We lost Katie.
We lose Katie.
Yes.
We lost it.
Say hi to goodbye to her on WhatsApp, I guess. She needs to go anyway.
Right on time, yeah. Great to be with you all. Thank you.
Yeah, great ladies.
Lovely lady.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
you.
Leslie.
Bye. Bye.